everybody. My name is Madeline, and I am a writing lab consultant here at AUS. I am also a clinical mental health counseling with drama therapy student, just to let you know a little bit about me. So, everybody to the other side of the screen. All right. So looking at the different types of papers, so this is kind of from a writing lab perspective a little bit. The types of papers I primarily see at Antioch that most students write, I see a lot of reflection papers, a lot of research papers, and a lot of case conceptualizations. So I kind of cover all three types of these papers while going through. And with reflection papers, you're using your first person and reflecting on your own experience or reflecting on something you've read in class. And with research papers, it's not usually first person and you're providing your reader with information of vast types of experience. And then we also see a lot of case conceptualizations where you're using your own research and your personal experience to help understand either a couple, a family, or a group. I'm curious, because this is kind of the top of my mind, does anybody have anything that they would add to this list? I am going to move on to the next slide, which is steps to writing a paper so that you're not SpongeBob. So I got selecting a topic, first step, then do your research, and actually, I'm going to pause real quick. I would recommend this for any type of paper, whether you're writing reflection paper, research paper, or case conceptualization. So selecting an interesting topic, do your research, create a purpose, create a basic outline, and then I'm going to pause and do a little bit of a discussion on structure. And then we'll talk about writing your first draft, and then you revise your first draft, and then you edit and proofread your final draft, which then means you can turn it in. Huzzah! So first, you want to select an interesting topic. No matter what subject you are writing about, and I recommend ensure that the topic is that you are interested in that topic, or some part of that particular paper that can help motivate you to get through it, because sometimes we get a paper and it's like, I don't quite think I'm going to be interested in this at all. But if you can find maybe like one small thing to help motivate you through getting through it, then that can help an immense amount. So looking at selecting a topic, so for a reflection paper, maybe you find something in the reading that you really cared about that you're going to talk about, or you're applying the reading to your future work, so then it'll motivate you through because it'll help. With a research paper, is there a specific part of the assignment that you're going to really enjoy? Or can you use this project to assist your future career? So then maybe you can find that motivation. And with case conceptualization, I recommend, is there a specific like theoretical orientation or framework that holds true to you that you can look through? Or does a specific for client pique your interest as well can be really helpful. So some examples of that a little bit might be reflection paper. That exercise made me feel real, like multiple emotions, so I'm going to talk about that. Or I related to the author in a particular way. The author made me mad in a particular way. Sometimes that happens. Or oftentimes that happens, depending on what you're reading. For a research paper, I'm being a drama therapy student, like research paper, can you do drama therapy in juvenile detention centers? Or a topic, maybe you're really interested in cultural humility or Adlerian therapy. Maybe you have like two topics that you're interested in. Could you combine them? That would be interesting too. So, and with case conceptualization, maybe there's a particular character like Beth brought up countertransference for me, so I'm going to work on that. Or I wonder how psychotherapy or a particular framework, like a feminist framework, would approach this specific situation. Do your research. Like, no matter what kind of paper you are writing, I recommend doing your research. And at the very beginning of the quarter for me, I become familiar with an assignment that I need to do and what topics are in that assignment to do. And while I'm doing my class readings and something comes up that I know is going to deal with a future assignment, I'll maybe make a note or copy and paste. And I have a running document that I can paste my research into while I'm doing my work for class. I can kind of create references for myself and research for myself for any of my future papers, no matter what kind of assignment it is. And that also means understanding the assignment requirements so that you know what research is going to support or connect to whatever you are writing about. So for a reflection paper, that might mean what was interesting to you in the reading. Was there a moment of heightened or lack of emotion? Doing your research and sitting in those things is going to be your research, and how the influences from class are going to impact you. That's going to be your reflection research. Your research paper might seem a little bit obvious, but it's going to be the various perspectives that you're taking and the approaches that they might use. Who's your audience going to be? Do you need to research your audience to see what's going to be important to them? What key words are you going to use? And are there any synonyms for when you're typing in your research titles so that you can find the research that you are specifically looking for? When doing research, library is amazing help. So I recommend utilizing their services and emailing the library if you find, I can't quite find the right words to use here. They're a great resource to have. For case conceptualizations, like what is happening with the client or clients, that's going to be what your research is. And how does your theory understand the situation that your client or clients might be in? And that might be where your research leads you. So, specific examples, the application of group cohesion by the Coreys made me feel this way. Or the emotions that came up were fear in this class experience because of blah, blah, blah. Doing research papers, look at, something that might be really helpful. If you can see that I use stars here at the end. And what that means is it will fill in the rest of the word for you. So this term here will mean drama therapy, drama therapist, drama. Actually, those are the two I can come up with off the top of my head right now. But this down here would be called like therapy, therapeutic, whatever. So when you use an asterisk at the end when you're researching, that will fill the rest of the word for you, and it can broaden your search if that is what you are looking for. However, if that's not what you're looking for and you want to narrow your search, don't do that. With case conceptualizations, this particular client is feeling overwhelmed because of her lack of emotional intelligence. So then you're going to look at that client is going to be your research. What is emotional intelligence? That's going to also be some of your research. So those are some ways that you can do some research with these particular papers. Next, I recommend, after the research, creating a purpose. Some will refer to this as a, oh wait, I missed it. There we go. Can't miss the Chris Pratt meme. I apologize. So create your purpose. And what this might mean for different papers is you write a statement that will tell your reader what the main point of your paper is. For a research paper, that would be the thesis. For the reflection paper, that, getting into my next slide. For the reflection paper, that's telling your reader why this paper is important to them and why this paper information is important for you to reflect on. And also, in a way, it can tell your professor that you understand why you are writing this reflection paper, which sometimes when you're sitting down and writing a reflection paper, it can feel like, I don't know why I'm doing this. But having a reframe or a purpose statement can help a lot. So with research papers, it's telling your reader what the main argument of your essay is, also known as your thesis statement. So what you may be arguing or what you are presenting in your paper. Case conceptualization tells your reader why this is important and what your analysis is. And it tells your professor also, like the reflection paper, why you are writing the paper as well. Interestingly, while I was creating this PowerPoint, I realized that case conceptualizations are kind of a mixture of research papers and reflection papers together. So if that helps your mind understand, let that be what it is. Okay, so here are some examples, and I can send out the PowerPoint at the very end, but I provided some examples of what thesis statements or purpose statements for the various types of papers might be. Next, I recommend create your outline. Honestly, I work from an outline. I organize all of my information into an outline format, and I can almost copy and paste it directly into a paper format, and that's how I have found really works for me. So, but any way for you that can outline and organize your information that you're giving your reader would be greatly beneficial. And I usually turn to my assignment description to help me do this as well. So that'd be a recommendation. But here is where I am going to pause for some structure information. Yes, I will send the PowerPoint to everybody. Thank you, Ruth. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm going too fast. My apologies. I will send out the PowerPoint. So if you can't get it all down, don't worry about it. It is helpful, actually. If you do want my PowerPoint, it is helpful if you email the Writing Lab. I will put the Writing Lab email in here, and if you could email us and be like, hey, I would love the PowerPoint from today, that would be helpful for me, so that I can ensure that you all get it. There you go. I put the email in the chat box for you. Sorry about that. I'm trying to get through the information, and I know I have a lot, and I can talk fast, so my apologies for that. I will try and slow down a little bit as well, so thank you for bringing that to my attention. Yes, there is that, Jill. Thank you. You can come back and see my face again and again if you want, because it is also being recorded. So, paper organization. I recommend this literally for every paper, case conceptualization, reflection, or research. Whether or not your assignment tells you you need an introduction or a conclusion, I always recommend having it. So in your introduction, I recommend having a mini outline of your paper that can just be a quick summary of what's going to be discussed. And have the mini outline of the paper, sorry, when I get. So in your introduction, I recommend a sentence or a couple of sentences, depending on how long your paper is, describing what your paper is going to discuss, which can help increase your flow and the clarity of your main points, because your reader will know what they are ahead of time. So then when they're going through the information, nothing will kind of seem like a surprise. And with your purpose statement, I recommend that being the very last line of your introduction paragraph. Sometimes it can go before the mini outline, and actually sometimes I put the mini outline and the purpose together depending on the paper that you're writing. It's however your voice will show up. So
one of the most favorite things that you taught me that has been a lifesaver is writing the intro and conclusion at the very end, but having the outline, which has saved my life a lot.
Oh, that is helpful. Thank you, Trish, for bringing that up. I do. That is what I do. I will write my introduction and conclusion at the very end, because then I know what the body of my paragraph actually says. So then I know what I am trying to support. I will create my purpose first, and then after writing the body, I'll return to it to ensure that that is still what I am supporting in my body. So I do recommend that. Thank you so much. So with the body paragraphs, make sure that the organization matches your mini outline that you have in your intro, which you can write the mini outline afterwards, so then you wouldn't have to worry about it. And I recommend having a topic sentence for each body paragraph. Your first sentence be your topic sentence, which is saying what the paragraph is going to talk about in relation to your purpose. So how does that paragraph information connect to your purpose? So looking at conclusion. So when your conclusion, I recommend, this is how I write my conclusions. I just restate my purpose statement. I summarize the paper. Depending on how long your paper is, you might want a short summary, like one sentence, or a longer summary depending on the length. And I always conclude my paper answering the question, what do you want the reader to do next? Or what do you want the reader to take away? And I always I find that answering that question at the very end helps me realize in whole why I did what I did and why I wrote what I wrote. So if that's helpful, I would say the only exception to, while I recommend always having a conclusion, the only exception I would make to this rule is if the professor requires a reflection piece at the very end of your paper. Sometimes that can feel already like a conclusion. So if your self-reflection is about the paper and you're reflecting and summarizing the paper already, sometimes the conclusion can be a little bit redundant, but that's a particular case. And it doesn't happen as often. So now looking at specifically breaking down body paragraphs, I always organize my body paragraphs based off of my assignment description. So for a reflection paper, make sure that you're answering all the questions that your professor asks. Oh, pause for a second. Just reminding, this is still creating your outline. So when organizing your information, I organize my information in a way that's based off of the assignment criteria in a way so that I know that when I fill in my information for my outline, I will meet the assignment requirements as well. So for research paper, answer the questions asked. For case conceptualizations, ensure that the assignment requirements are met. And for a reflection paper, reflection and research look very similar when I glance down at them. Reflection papers, make sure you answer the questions asked and case conceptualizations. For a research paper, I recommend the organization, make sure that it flows and that it supports each other. Either starting off with like the background framework so that the reader can understand your argument, or organizing it in chronological order if that's helpful, or starting with your least supported to working towards your most supported points, or vice versa. So however you think that presenting your research is going to best for the reader to read and understand it. So that's jumping back to creating an outline. And I give some examples of my own outlines that I've created. So I recommend write every aspect of your research paper in your outline and put your research under the topics that support it. And it can help if you put proper citations in as well, so that when you have to go write your paper, you already have your citations pretty much ready to go. I also recommend creating it and then double checking the assignment sheet before you actually go into writing your paper, so that you don't look at the assignment and you're like, oh shoot, I missed that one little piece. And finally, I also you can consider elaborating the bullets into full sentences and then making your entire paper based off of your outline. Or you can work off of your outline. However, everybody writes differently, so I empower you to figure out which way works best for you. So here's an example of an introduction sample outline. If anyone has taken the writing and psychology course, this was taken from my writer apologia. So it's similar to a research-esque, reflection-esque paper. So I always start with this. I also start with an attention getter. So these are some ideas that I had for this particular paper. Did I want to start with a Shakespeare quote, or Shakespeare information, or people struggling with writing, or a story about my own struggle? And then these were my 3 main points that I was going to talk about, and my thesis statement. Then body, I put my main points, and then here was the research that I used to support it. It's kind of, and then conclusion, honestly copy paste from my introduction. Even though you want to rewrite your purpose statement, make sure that it's not the same in your conclusion as your introduction. And then, yeah, so there's an example for you if you want to come back to it later. And here is a sample outline of a research paper that I have written. I won't go through the whole thing. And then I eventually, because I used this so often, I got accustomed to it. So then I started to diminish things that later on I found I could just implement by itself. But I started with outlining everything before I became more comfortable with sections that I was okay not specifically outlining as well. So yeah, so there's some different types of outlines that might be helpful to you. So next, after writing your outline, you get to write your draft. Because you all love writing, and you don't care who knows it. And honestly, what I just recommend is after creating your outline, just write your paper. It might seem scary, but just do it. And then after you finish your first draft, you get to revise your first draft, which means that you finished your paper, but you get to just keep writing, just keep writing. What do we do? Write. Thank you, Shoshana. All right, and so after, I recommend these types of different things for revising your draft. I found it helpful to read my draft out loud to myself. I also have a program I downloaded as a PDF, and I have a program that reads my paper to me, and I edit while going through, because listening to my paper helps me like see where a redundancy might be or a small typo that I've made. You can also, some professors offer to review a student's papers for them. If you've finished your first draft in time, I recommend reaching out to your professor and asking, like, hey, do you mind looking at this for me? And some are completely open to that. And some, you can take it to the writing lab. The program I use, so you can either, Antioch has the Read and Write program. The Read and Write program is downloadable to students, and I use that to read my paper to me. Or when honestly, my computer, how it works is I open a PDF and it automatically opens in Microsoft Edge, and Microsoft Edge will read mine aloud to me still. However, I did have somebody tell me that there was a new update that prevented it from doing that, and I don't know if it has fixed yet. Those are the two programs I have found, but you could look up other programs online. Yeah.
The Microsoft Edge fix is, at least 2 weeks ago, was still not working. For me.
For you. Jill was the person that realized it didn't work, but it's still working on my computer, so I am unsure as to what happened there.
You didn't update it. So don't update it if you want to use Microsoft Edge.
I guess, yes, that is what it is. Don't update your Microsoft Edge.
Put a copy of the program onto a separate thumb drive so that you have it permanently. Otherwise, next time it updates, it'll automatically overwrite.
Oh, that's helpful. I'm going to write that down. Remember it.
Could you say that again, please?
Certainly. Anytime that you have a program that you really like, put a copy onto a dedicated thumb drive.
Oh, sure, yeah.
All these companies have a great way of writing updates that improve by getting rid of great features. And if you don't have your own copy, you don't get it back.
Yeah, no, I come from running a design firm where there used to be like this machine in the closet backing me up. So I've become like a fanatic about the little G drives and the thumb drives and whatever.
Right.
Because I've had so much lost by Microsoft.
Oh, yeah. Well, and Apple, too. I mean, iTunes and their photo program both used to be fantastic, and now they're just empty shells of nothingness.
They used to be, yeah. Yeah. I haven't worried so much about those because it's not attached to writing these papers.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for that information. I am going to have a dedicated thumb drive to that now. Okay. You can take it to the writing lab, which is the AUS writing lab, or you can submit your paper to the virtual writing lab. The virtual writing lab will cover 12 pages, or up to 12 pages. If you have a longer paper than 12 pages, you can submit it in different parts, and they'll go over your paper up to 3 times per assignment. So, and they will take documents in RTF or Word, which is, I am unsure what RTF does, but, or
RTF, Pearson.
It's just a version, like if you don't have Word, you can download it in that format and you can access it in it's like a one size fits all. So like I don't have Word, so I can't save a doc, but I can save an RTF and it'll open in Word.
Okay.
Or any word processing program.
Right, so those are the 2 types of documents that the virtual writing lab is able to work in. And there's also, I didn't put this, you can also submit to the Writers Exchange. They are a paid service though, so you pay, I think it is $30 per paper, but they are connected to Antioch, so they write for, like, they are writing consultants specifically for, not specifically for Antioch students, but, and they will do your line-by-line editing if that is something you are looking for. which the writing lab and the virtual writing lab, those aren't services that we provide, but WEX does. Or finally, if you don't want to use any of those, you could also just send it to a trusted individual, whether it's your parent, a guardian, a best friend, a colleague, or like a classmate would be perfect too. So those are all different aspects of that I have used to revise my drafts. And then after you revise your draft, you get to edit and proofread, which is more of what WEX would do, which editing and proofreading is pretty much the difference between that and revising. That's the nitty gritty. You forgot a comma here, you missed a typo here. Those are more of the editing proofreading. And then you can turn it in. I also wanted to give a little bit, so looking at academic papers, I have some tips for writing in first person because that's what you will do primarily in your reflection or your case conceptualizations. One thing is make sure that you separate the theory or the author's information from your own interpretation or use of that information. So here we have, my family has overt rules, and that's what Kerr says. But that's not what Kerr says. Kerr doesn't talk about your family. Kerr talks about overt rules. So you can say, my family experiences overt rules. Kerr says overt rules are these. So then my family's overt rules include this. Also, when writing in first person, obviously, make sure you use I statements. That seems a little bit obvious, but what I mean by that is try not to use we or our statements. So you want to try and speak from your own experience instead of on the behalf of like a classmate or on the behalf of a larger group of people. So I would recommend that you use I statements for that purpose. And also considering when you use we or our, it might be my pet peeves, but the reader doesn't know who we and our includes unless you tell them. So if you say we are classmates, or we an American society, or we as a nation, that can help specify what we means instead of assuming that you're grouping the reader into an unknown group of people. Yeah, and actually that is all I had today.